Welcome to Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a
What's
light
your
on
story?
incredible. What does accessibility mean to you?
What's your mission? Male, 38 years old. Welcome all to accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, where we shine a light on incredible individuals and organizations and the work that they do. I'm your host, Josh Basil. I'm a C4-5 quadriplegic, paralyzed below my shoulders, and a power wheelchair user. I'm the Community Relations Manager at accessiBe and a passionate disability rights advocate and trial attorney focused on breaking down barriers to access and inclusion for people with disabilities. I am wearing a blue collared shirt, short sleeve. I'm white male, 38 years old, in a power wheelchair. I've got pictures of my two kids, who's 2 and 6, in the background behind me. And today on accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions, we're joined by Donald Overton, the National Executive Director at the Blinded Veterans Association. Welcome, Don.
Hey, Josh. It's great to be with you, sir.
I'm so excited to have you on the program and to dive into everything that you're doing and everything you're doing with the BVA. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So Donald Overton, I was born and raised up in New England. I actually in Fairfield County in Connecticut. I was an avid athlete growing up. I played sports, everything, from baseball, lacrosse. I was a great swimmer as well. Did that pretty much through high school, and transitioning out of high school, I decided to join the military. I joined the United States Army. Was stationed after training. I was a communications specialist. So after my training at Fort Gordon, I went down for jump training, airborne school at Fort Benning, Georgia, then Fort Benning, and ended up stationed with the 82nd Airborne Division in North Carolina at Fort Bragg, and served a combat deployment for Desert Shield and Desert Storm, so the very first Gulf War in 1990-91 timeframe. And during that deployment, during our combat operations, I sustained a significant blast injury that basically perforated both of my eyes. Through the blast itself, I ended up with bilateral detached retinas, bilateral lensectomies, bilateral corneal transplants. I was one of the first individuals to undergo a new pressure saving technique that were Maltino implants back then, which really helped to stabilize and save my eyes. But went through the whole medically induced coma, medevac back out, spent several weeks, and when I did emerge on the other side of it, realized that I would be spending the rest of my life legally blind. I'm totally blind in the left eye and legally blind in the right eye.
Wow, thank you for your service and everything you do. And I know we're going to be diving in more into that and the great work. But how did you get connected with the BVA?
It's a great story. Many of the veteran service organizations do a phenomenal job of connecting, especially during wartime periods, with individuals such as myself when we get medevaced back into the military treatment facility. So I was at Walter Reed. BVA, I slipped through BVA's cracks, not by any fault of theirs. I was in a very unique situation with having also sustained some additional injuries. So I wasn't on a traditional ocular ward. Disabled American veterans were there for me with a lot of my transition and those components. But there was a couple of years later, I finally was getting really good care at that time at the Hampton VA Medical Center. And I bumped into an individual in the hallway. We literally walked into one another, and it was a visual impairment services team coordinator. He was another blinded veteran himself. And Mr. Pugh, Philip Pugh, who became my very first VIS coordinator, really helped me to better understand the Department of Veterans Affairs, the benefits and services that were available to me, and also connected me with Blinded Veterans Association. And we haven't looked back since then. For the last 30 plus years, I've been involved in military and veterans advocacy at different levels, local, state, and federal levels, and BVA has played some touch points across time with that. I connected, obviously, as a member originally, attended some of their outreach programs. They had a program called Operation Peer Support, connected through that, and then started to attend the national conventions.
It's amazing what happens when you get to bump into the right people or get matched up with the right mentors to get you in different directions in life. What if you never bumped in in that hallway?
Exactly. And really, I mean, this was a catalyst. Mr. Pugh really helped me to stabilize my life, to understand that there was life after my disability, to connect me into the educational benefits, and really motivate me to get into this field of work that I find myself in today. And so, yeah, it is amazing. And I think we're all truly blessed one way or another. There's divine intervention in our lives that help guide us when we need it most.
I love it. And what does it mean to be the only congressional charter?
Yeah, it's really critically important. So Blinded Veterans Association was founded by World War II veterans. There were no real definitive services available for blinded veterans. Most of the convalescence and rehabilitation was still being done in England. At Old Avon Farm in Connecticut, a group of about 100 war-blinded veterans came together, and they were really the founders of Blinded Veterans Association. They formed the association back then. They had support from other groups that were blindness consumer groups that helped them. And about a decade and a half later, they petitioned Congress for a congressional charter. It's extremely important because that affords us the opportunity, and we are really the only recognized national voice for blinded and low vision veterans now, to present annual testimony before Congress, to lobby Congress to ensure that the proper funding and benefits and programs and services are available to our stakeholder community. And it also gives us a seat at the table with the Department of Veterans Affairs to ensure that service delivery is there and in place. As a matter of fact, Blinded Veterans Association, those that served before us, were the catalyst for the first blind rehabilitation center to be opened in Hines in Chicago. And from there, we're happy to report that we have 13 inpatient blind rehabilitation centers across the country serving our constituency. And then there's advanced outpatient clinics and things as well. So BVA really laid the foundation for everything that I've been able to benefit from, and all those experiencing any type, whether it's age-related or traumatic eye-related conditions.
Such great work. And, this leads into the questions like, what do you love most about your job and the work that you do? I feel like there's already so much to love, but can you tell us a little more?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, every day we have a positive impact, whether it's impacting, legislation that has a positive impact on so many individuals' lives. One of our more recent accomplishments a couple of years ago, we got website accessibility legislation in place to ensure a level playing field, equal access, right, to be able to get information off of, whether it's a website, to be able to check in on a mobile app, or to use anything that's a digital communications tool, which we realize is utilized more and more in every aspect of our lives today. And it's been great to watch. We've been affecting a cultural transformation within the Department of Veterans Affairs to ensure that we are able to access the same services and programs as somebody not experiencing a sight loss. But that's really served as a catalyst. We're seeing now the Department of Justice has now just recently issued new Title II legislation for the entire, first it was Title I with the federal government, now it's Title II with state and local governments to also render all of their platforms accessible to the community. And eventually it'll be Title III, which means that all businesses across the country will also need to ensure that everyone can access, their websites, their different apps and things along those lines. We get to do that, but I think the greatest really for us is we built an ambassador program, which is a peer mentoring program. It's a multiple week training with continuing education for our members, and we're able to empower them with the knowledge necessary to ensure that they are maximizing every opportunity available to them, first with the benefits that may be available, but then also being able to give back, looking for opportunities to overcome the challenges associated with their conditions, but to make sure that they're having a positive impact on the world around them, and to help mentor others forward. So our ambassador program, Josh, has really been phenomenal. And then we also still do a lot on the outreach side, and everything from adaptive sports and getting folks out, finding ways to still be able to ride a bike, right? There's tandem bicycling, or to be able to kayak, to be able to run marathons, to climb mountains. One of our members recently summited Everest. And so, there's really no barriers to what our folks are capable of doing. We just do it differently. We're differently abled. And that's just it. We're able to give them the tools and make sure that the tools allow them to accomplish whatever task is set before them that they want to accomplish.
That's beautiful. This probably has come with so many memorable moments and stories. Is there one that kind of stands out that's had a lasting impact on you?
Josh, those are always the problematic ones. Whether it's the individual that was on the brink of homelessness and helping them realize that they could stabilize their life. But I think for me, probably one of the most memorable, I've been blessed to be around so many generations of veterans, World War II veterans who I had the utmost respect and admiration for, but it's really been the Vietnam era veterans, and being able to serve alongside, they were really my mentors. And so the individuals that really helped me grow into the advocate that I am today, to equip me and prepare me for that. There's one or two Vietnam era veterans that served, one of them in this role before me, and that's Mr. Tom Miller, who I have the greatest admiration for. And Tom used to take the time to help me understand the challenges for our stakeholders, what things were like on Capitol Hill, and really just take the time to mentor me and to help educate and inform me. And then another individual who also served in roles that I've held, the National Legislative Director for Blinded Veterans Association, Mr. Tom Zamperi, Dr. Zamperi, really got me into the research realm, helped me to serve on the Department of Defense congressionally directed medical research programs. They do a lot of different types of research, vision research being one of them. So it helped me to better understand and position myself on the policy sides and things along those lines. When you can understand the research and everything that goes into, how much energy goes into, whether it's creating better ballistic protective eyewear for our military service members, so hopefully in the future we don't create as many blinded veterans as we have in the past, to also looking at the therapeutic approaches towards new surgical procedures, new interventions, things along those lines. So I think really for me, only because it's been such a catalyst for what I've been capable of accomplishing, Mr. Miller and Mr. Zamperi shine through as just being individuals who, one day I hope somebody can look back and I will have the same impact on someone else's life that they've had on mine.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with me. And one of my favorite questions to always ask is, what does accessibility mean to you?
Yeah, we touched on it briefly before. For me, personally, and really I think across the board, accessibility is just ensuring the same opportunity. It might be different. We might be consuming content differently, right? So for somebody with blindness, it's ensuring that assistive technology, something like a screen reader or a magnification, we do so much with products such as JAWS on the screen reader side, or Fusion and Zoom text for magnification and contrasting. So accessibility is just ensuring that, we can access that same information, right? To be able to, log into a website, and whether it's to be able to shop for goods and services, this is a huge population out there that are often, closed out from being able to participate in the marketplace to being able to be informed, right? It was great for us when we delivered our annual testimony this year before a joint session of the Senate and the House Veterans Affairs Committees. We've done this for years, and our national president delivers that testimony, and it's always a challenge. And they always point out, Congress works off of lights, right? So it's a green light during your time, and then it turns yellow, and then it turns red. And we, for year after year, have always said, our individuals can't see that. There's no other cues for them in those pieces. But after this year's testimony, and again, it's really on the heels of all of the effort that's gone into web accessibility and some of the other accessibility challenges across the board. Congress has reached out now and said, they've awakened, and they will be working to remediate Capitol Hill to ensure that, whether it's the chambers themselves on the House or the Senate side, or, ensuring that we have definitive access for those folks that are, mobility challenged, or folks with, cognitive and neurologic challenges. They're going to take into consideration all of that. So things from lighting to audible to wayfinding, all of this different type of technology. So that's really what it comes down to. We want to be as minimally invasive as possible and just look at real world solutions to ensure that everyone can, whether it's compete in the employment sector. For our folks, Josh, we still see an over 70% unemployment rate, unfortunately, with folks that are experiencing visual types of conditions. So, whether it's competing there, whether it's consuming goods and services, whether it's being able to travel independently, it's just ensuring that, we have some sensitivity out there and a willingness to kind of understand, what is our lived experience on this side, and trying to help remediate where some of those challenges are.
And what advice would you give to businesses that want to be more accessible?
Yeah, I mean, we are beginning to see this. Reach out, right? There's so many unique opportunities, and we welcome this. For us, we have a unique relationship with the Department of Veterans Affairs now. It's not a confrontational. For years we found ourselves trying to compel Congress to pass legislation to incentivize the agency to remediate those challenges. And now we have a seat at the table. The VA has welcomed us as stakeholders. We work with almost all of their teams. We've still got some work to do, but we're working with a lot of their teams. And what we find is when we have a seat at the table, and we can better help guide the process to help them understand, where the challenges exist, so that they don't, they don't arbitrarily try to remediate a situation and don't understand. It was interesting. One of the recent challenges was around the physical kiosks, right? Everybody uses a kiosk, whether it's a self-service checkout at a grocery store, but the VA was using them as well, for the check-in, for appointments at the VA medical centers and things along those lines. And so they looked at, well, we'll replace the kiosks with a mobile application that's accessible, which was phenomenal for us. But they didn't take into consideration that, some of our older veterans don't use this type of technology. And so they were trying to replace one solution, but creating another challenge. And so I think when they take the time to bring the different communities to the table in an advisory capacity to help really strategically think through some of the solutions, they end up with better results and better outcomes for everyone.
And making sure that people don't fall through the cracks.
You got it, Josh. That's exactly right, sir.
And then as internet usage is increasing exponentially, it feels like, what are some things that you wish you'd have happen online?
Yeah, and again, I think there's tremendous opportunities out there to be able to assist businesses get ahead of this. As we talked about very early on, this isn't necessarily intended to be punitive, right? So the Department of Justice getting involved, they need to set up the types of regulations to ensure compliance. Eventually, we hope that folks will choose to remediate in advance, and the time is right now. realizing that the federal sector is really putting energy behind this, and they are doing a phenomenal job at remediation. It will take time, and we're sensitive to that. And now looking at the state and local governments, and we've seen some state and local governments get ahead of this, but eventually it is going to touch everyone, whether that is the brick and mortar, storefront, or that web based business. Everyone's going to need to look into this, and it's not a heavy lift for remediation. There's tools out there that can live on a website that exists today. There are tools that can be integrated, and you're familiar with those tools that can help remediate those challenges and ensure the equal access, so that an individual that is trying to use technology, and again, it's not saying to the businesses, you have to invest in this other technology. We do that as consumers, the blindness community and the low vision community. We have those technologies. It's just a matter of ensuring that their websites themselves allow our technology to communicate with what they're doing, and it doesn't take much to be able to do that.
Don, I've very much enjoyed your wisdom, insights, and everything that you do. And just thank you so much for being our guest today on accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions.
Thanks so much, Josh. Look forward to communicating with you in the future.
Thank you, Don. And to all of our guests, thank you so much for staying to the end of accessiBe's Spotlight Sessions. Thank you for being on this journey with us, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us at accessiB_community. Take care, everyone. Bye, Don.